Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So it is the other Wednesday, so I'm here bringing you guys our next Hidden Figures, and I am really excited about today's Hidden Figure. I actually saw a story about her on, I believe, NPR, which I'm going to definitely include in the description box, and I highly recommend that you guys all read it. This woman's name is Rosa Gilmore, and she basically was a cook and a midwife who participated in the Montgomery Bus Boycott and was a huge part of why the boycott ended up being sustainable long term, because she did a lot of cooking and fundraising efforts that went into making sure that it became sustainable. So NPR ran this piece on Monday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which was Monday. So happy belated MLK Day. And I just thought it was really fascinating that I had never heard of this woman. And it also reminded me of a tweet that was sent out by Bernice King, one of the children, the daughters of MLK and Coretta Scott King, who also said, on this day that you're honoring my father, please make sure that you also honor my mother, Coretta Scott King, who's an activist in her own right and was a huge push to even bringing MLK Day, making that into a holiday. So it's just really interesting to kind of see these unsung heroes, these black women, and we've done other, black women that were hugely instrumental in the civil rights movement that have kind of been in a lot of ways forgotten by history, which patriarchy and, has done a lot of. If you're not, Rosa Parks sitting down in the back of the bus, they even erased Claudette Calvin because she didn't fit into the respectability politics, and it's just so many really interesting stories and backstories and moving pieces. So Georgia Teresa Gilmore, born February 5th, 1920, died March 3rd, 1990, was an African-American woman from Montgomery, Alabama, who participated in the Montgomery Bus Boycott through her fundraising effort, selling food at the boycott's mass meetings. Her grassroots activism helped to sustain the long boycott and inspired similar groups to begin raising money. Gilmore worked as a midwife in Montgomery, where she lived with her 6 children. Though described as kind and motherly, Gilmore was also known for her fiery temper, especially in response to the racial injustices so common in 1950s Alabama. She would resist discrimination on buses and even confronted white men in the community if they mistreated her or her family. Gilmore also worked at the National Lunch Company in Montgomery as a cook until the beginning of the bus boycott in late 1955. After Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to leave her seat on December 1st, 1955, the Montgomery Improvement Association, or the MIA, declared a boycott of the bus system beginning on December 5th. Gilmore, who had already refused to use the buses in Montgomery, heard of the arrest on the news and quickly joined the new Montgomery Improvement Association. This is when the boycott began. Gilmore's involvement in the boycott, along with her vocal contempt for discriminatory white bus drivers, resulted in her being fired from the National Lunch Company, but this only increased her participation within the MIA and the boycott, and she was later quoted as saying, "This new generation has decided that they had just taken as much as they could." That's a direct quote. Following her dismissal from the lunch company, Martin Luther King Jr., who lived nearby, and other MIA leaders helped Gilmore set up her own restaurant in her home as a way for her to make a living. It was then that she began the boycott fundraising effort, which she called the Club from Nowhere. Georgia Gilmore stated that what we could do best was cook, and so she began with a group of friends making sandwiches to sell at the mass meetings for the boycott and the MIA. The success of this venture led Gilmore and her friends to produce entire meals, including chicken dinners, cakes, and pies to sell to the boycotters. The money from these sales went towards helping the Montgomery Improvement Association and to sustain the boycott for as long as possible. Gilmore dubbed her group the Club from Nowhere to ensure the anonymity of the members as well as contributors. In an effort to avoid any conflict, Gilmore established herself as the only officer in the Club from Nowhere. Members gave her all the money they made, which she then passed to the leaders of the MIA at weekly meetings. The club soon began raising hundreds of dollars a week by selling their meals out of beauty parlors, laundromats, and other locations, frequented by both boycotters and supporters of the movement, and they would present their weekly gains at the meetings to the applause of the audience. Gilmore hoped that the success of the group had encouraged other ordinary folks to do the same. The organization and others like it are cited by some as what kept the boycott alive by providing money, food, and grassroots support within the community. And I also want to say that that was something that I thought was really interesting about the movie Selma. If any of you guys have seen Selma, I did review it on this channel, was that we see kind of the more grassrootsy organizing that was going on. Like, we see the members of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, like, sleeping in people's homes. We see them, carpooling. We see them, getting food from women like Georgia Gilmore. We see that it was not, obviously, fucking white American revisionist history has really Disney-fied Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the whole boycott into this, I have a dream, colorblind, all this fucking bullshit that it really was not. And I did love what Ava DuVernay did in Selma of showing, like, these are people that are sleeping on floors. These are people that are sleeping in cars. These are people that have no money. These are people that it's really like grassroots organizing of just like figuring shit out. And like people like Georgia Gilmore were like huge parts of that. Gilmore and the Club from Nowhere show how the extensive efforts of African American women aided and sustained the bus boycott, both in their financial contributions and in their commitment to the boycott itself. The club prompted the creation of a rival organization called the Friendly Club that also, rival is here in quotes. They're basically saying how her organization really did inspire other people to like start other, regular people that might not have said like, well, I'm not an activist, or, like, what can I do? Other people to start organizations. That also helped fundraising for the MIA. Her son Mark later stated that she had elevated her day-to-day work doing the cooking into something greater. And I have another direct quote. In a 1986 interview, Gilmore credited African American women with being a driving force behind the boycott's success, saying, "You see, we were maids, cooks, and we were the ones that really and truly kept the bus running." And I'm also going to read you guys the opening from the NPR story, just because it's a really good opener. We've been thinking about Georgia Gilmore and the Club from Nowhere ever since John T. Edge from the Southern Foodways Alliance at the University of Mississippi called our Hidden Kitchens phone line last year to tell us about her secret civil rights kitchen in Montgomery, Alabama. Any woman who could raise money selling pies and cakes out of beauty parlors, to buy gas and station wagons, to haul people to work during the 1955-56 bus boycott that Rosa Parks triggered was someone we wanted to chronicle. Isn't that such a good opener? Like, yes. Gilmore also participated in the Eyes on the Prize documentary, and her famous recipes still appear in cookbooks. She died on the 25th anniversary of the Selma March. So, Georgia Gilmore, that's a super, super, super interesting story. And again, I am going to have links in the description box for you guys to read. Definitely check out the NPR piece. Just also for those of you that don't read NPR, you can also listen to all of their stories as well, because I know a lot of you guys are into like podcasts and stuff like that. So just please check it out. Food for thought as always. Georgia Gilmore, a hidden figure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. See you guys next time. Peace.